Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Tails and Tales visit to the South Carolina Aquarium. We have with us today Jamie Tom, and she is going to be sharing some tales of the river otter exhibit there at the aquarium. And make sure if you have any questions, you can post those either to the questions tab or to the chat. I will be monitoring both of those, and I will let Jamie know when we have questions for her. And also, if you happen to be watching with more than just yourself, if there are more people in the room watching with you, we'd love to hear how many people are watching our program today. So please share that with us, either as in the chat if you see the chat, or as a question. You can just ask it as a question and we'll know. So I'll turn it over to Jamie. And
all right. Well, wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer, for that wonderful welcome. It's good to see you guys again. I was with you on June 10th whenever we were looking at the Great Ocean Tank at the South Carolina Aquarium. And of course, we learned all about fish tails. Today, we're going to be focusing on otter tails. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like I mentioned the last time, we love talking about animals and any stories that we have about them. And this is a really fun theme for us because we're focusing on tails. And so otters have some pretty amazing tails. But before I go into our river otter exhibit, I want to make sure that I cover a little bit of information for you, just an overview of animal tails. So I mentioned this the last time we looked at this, reasons that animals have a tail. So this is a list of some of the different reasons why animals have tails. One of them, of course, is for moving. We're going to talk about that one a lot today. Another one is for communication. Think about your dog. When your dog is happy, the dog's going to wag his tail. If the dog is scared, it usually kind of tucks its tail in between its legs. So that's one way that animals communicate with each other. Another one would be to attract a mate. And you know what? A peacock is a perfect example of that. They have the males have those beautiful display feathers, and they're using those to try to attract a female. Another reason animals have tails is to protect themselves. An example of that would be the scorpion that you see right over here. It's a little hard to see, but they have that tail that's going to help sting either their predators or prey. So it's protecting themselves. Another example of that would be a lizard. Think about a lizard. If something bites a lizard's tail, it will actually drop its tail off of its body and get away, and then grow that new tail. So that's a way of protecting themselves. To get food, the one I think about with this one is a monkey and how they can swing around in the trees in order to get to their food. So that's a good one. And then this one, stability. We'll talk about this one a little bit more today as well. Or balance. When they're climbing or when they're walking, animals can use their tail for stability to grab on, or just to give them a little bit more balance as they're moving. So animals have tails for a lot of different reasons. And like I said, we're going to focus on otter tails today. So where we are right now, it's kind of ugly behind me, so I apologize for that. But at the aquarium, we are on the 3rd floor, and this is not where visitors go. So we're on the 3rd floor right outside our food prep kitchen and right outside our mountain forest exhibit. So if you guys have been to the South Carolina Aquarium before, we have a beautiful mountain forest exhibit where our otters live. So I'm going to be taking you inside to see the otters, and you guys get a special treat today because our otters are going to be getting some food during our program. And I didn't know that was going to happen until yesterday, so I'm really excited that you guys are going to get to see that. So let's go on a little adventure. I'm going to change my camera view because I want to make sure that you guys can see. Let me make sure I change this around here. Gotta find my right camera. Oh goodness, where's my webcam? Here we go. All right, let's see if we can change this view. Oh, it's not looking the same, Jennifer. I'm gonna see if I can figure this out. Here, let me spin around so you guys can see what's going on in food prep while I'm trying to figure out the webcams here. All right, here's our food prep kitchen. You guys can take a look in there while we're preparing some of this food. You don't want to see me the whole time. Here we go.
Did you find it?
I'm finding it. It's just taken me a little while to get to it. It looks a little different today than it did the last time. Bummer.
I'm not sure how to help.
I know. I don't know how to help either. Let's see here. I know I've got to do a webcam. And I've got to click on preferences. So let me see. Usually I have that at the top of my screen. So I don't know if I'm just in a funny view. Oh, there we go. Oh, I got it. I was just in a funny view, I think, because of the way it's presenting. Sorry, everybody. We're getting there. You don't want to see me this whole time, I promise.
Oh, yay.
There we go. We got it. Now I can see. I just needed to minimize, you know. Oh, this is a different platform for me. So, all right. So we're going to go out this way. You can see some of our high school interns. We have high school interns here at the aquarium. And they are signing out some animals to take out on the floor. But we're going to go outside here and see our mountain forest exhibit. All right. Now, this is what we call secondary containment. Anytime you have animals on exhibit, you want to make sure you have a way to make sure that you are not going to let those animals out. So we are going to go through here. It's kind of an interesting thing that you guys could see. And we have it all locked up so that our animals are never going to be in trouble of getting out. And we've got birds in this exhibit. We have our otters in this exhibit. And we want to make sure everybody stays nice and safe. So I go in this one door, and then I have to shut it, of course. And then I'm going to go inside the second door, and then we are inside the exhibit. So that is what you call secondary containment. Never want to let the birds out, and of course you never want to let the otters out. Not that they could ever get up here. And then I'm going to go down the steps here. We're in our mountain forest, so we're going to be surrounded by our trees, which is beautiful. And we're going to go see what our otters are doing. Now, everybody, these are North American river otters. So when I get over here to their exhibit, so beautiful up here. But when I get over here to this exhibit, now you can see them. You can see one of them in the water there, swimming around. But this is where we are going to be feeding them. That's why I wanted to make sure I showed you guys from this viewpoint, the river otters. You can see all three of them. They already think they're going to get some food from me. Little do they know that I am not the one that's going to be feeding them. I'm just going to be talking about them. But this is their exhibit from the top. You guys can see we're surrounded by trees out here. We're on this third floor of the aquarium, and our visitors are looking in the exhibit from down there. So you guys get a pretty cool view. You can see a couple of our visitors right there. We're going to get a pretty cool view of these otters. Now, North American river otters, they are not going to be living in the ocean. These are not sea otters. They are North American river otters. So they are going to be living in the freshwater rivers of South Carolina or anywhere in North America. That's why they're called North American river otters. And here in a few minutes, they are going to eat, like I mentioned. And if you can watch them, and I want you to just kind of see how they're moving, we're going to talk about how they use their tails. All right, so looking at them, they're using their tail in a very specific way right now. And that's for balance and stability. Do you guys see that? The otter that just was up on his back legs, that was Beau. And we have Charlie and we have Ace. So we have three North American river otters, and they're showing you right now, Ace is showing you right now when he stands up on his hind legs, how he's going to use that tail for balance. Now, that's not the only way they use their tail. They also use their tail for swimming. So let me see if I can get over here and get rid of that glare. But they use their tail for swimming too. That's probably the number one reason why they need that tail. It's very strong for pushing them through the water so that they can swim. So stability and for balance and for swimming. Very, very strong tail. So Ace, Charlie, and Beau. Now, Ace, Charlie, and Beau are very different ages. So Ace is our old guy. He's the one that's in the water right now. And he is 18 years old. Now, otters typically live 15 to 20 years. So Ace is considered a senior because he is 18 years old, so not real young. And then Charlie and Beau are our young guys. They are only 2 years old. I'm sorry, they're only 1 year old. There are two of them, but they're only 1 year old. So they all have some pretty good stories. Right now you're seeing all three of them. Ace is the one in the middle, and then Charlie and Beau are the two on the sides. Now, we've had Ace for very, very long time, and he, as I said, he's considered senior. So we wanted to make sure that we got some young otters in here with him so they can make a nice little bachelor group. So their story is, I'll tell you how Ace came to live with us. And they're over in the water right now, see if you guys can see them. Ace came to live with us as a pup. He was less than a year old, and he was orphaned. So we don't know what happened to his mom, but we think his mom was probably killed by a predator. And then Ace was left without his mother to care for him. And so he came to the South Carolina Aquarium, and he's lived with us ever since. So pretty much 18 years he's been with us. And let me tell you about Charlie and Beau. Like I mentioned, they're only a year old, and they were born a little over a year, I guess a year and a half now, because they were born in February of 2020. And they were born at the Potter Park Zoo in Lansing, Michigan. And they came to live with us during COVID, actually, when everybody was in quarantine at home. Those river otters came to live with us, and they were in quarantine here. Because when you get a new animal, you have to put them in quarantine to make sure that everybody's healthy before you put them on exhibit. So they came to live with us, and they were with us for about 4 months before they went on exhibit. But now they've been with us for quite a while now, and they're getting used to their new exhibit, and they're getting used to Ace. But you know what? Ace, it's funny because Ace doesn't always want to play. River otters are very, very active. As you guys can see, they're always moving around. They're very active animals. But sometimes Ace is just like, I'm done, guys. You guys are one. You like to play all day long. You know what? I'm 18. I'm not young anymore. And I just want to take a break. So please stop messing with me. Which is kind of funny because it's similar to cats and dogs that we have at home. The older they get, the less they want to really play. So that's what we're noticing with Ace. A lot of times he'll go take a break while Charlie and Beau are just swimming around and being the toddlers that they are. They're very excited for food. I don't know if you can see their sweet faces, but I think they're really excited about getting some food. All right, now people get them confused with sea otters all the time. And I mentioned to you earlier that river otters live in fresh water and they live in rivers. Sea otters live in the ocean and they live in salt water. We do not have sea otters in South Carolina. We only have river otters. So if you guys ever see an otter out and about in one of the rivers, you'll always know that it's a river otter, not a sea otter. They can get about 18 to 23 pounds. Ours are about 17 pounds. And here in a few minutes, whenever they eat, you're going to see that they're going to need a lot of protein in their diet. They're very active animals. Oh, look at that sweet little face over there on the log. They're very active, swimming, moving. You know, I told you that Ace wasn't as active as the other two, but they're still very active, and they have to eat 15 to 20% of their body weight every single day. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot until you think about us and if we did that. If a human weighed 150 pounds and a human ate 20% of its body weight every day, that would mean that human was eating 30 pounds of food a day. We do not do that. If you guys eat 30 pounds of food in a day, then that's not going to be healthy for you. So we do not eat 10 to 15% of our body weight every day, or 15 to 20%, excuse me. But the river otters, they do. And so today they're going to be getting fish in a few minutes for you guys to watch. It's a little glary. Let me see if I can step over here and see if you guys can see them a little bit better. Oh, a little bit. They're kind of playing right there in the middle. So I told you their story. We talked about their tails. But you know, I can talk about otters probably all day long because they are so fun to talk about. So let me tell you a couple of fun things about otters. Before I do that, though, let's see. Jennifer, do we have anybody that has any questions?
No one has submitted any yet.
Okay, all right.
Just remember, everybody, if you have some, please let us know.
Yeah, we want to know anything you guys are interested in learning about. But right now, they're just wrestling down in the water. The two that are wrestling, that's Charlie and Beau. And then, of course, Ace is the one who's kind of staying away from him. He doesn't wrestle as much. They love that. But they're like little brothers. I mean, they are brothers, but they're just like brothers at home and brothers and sisters who like to roll around and play. That's exactly what they're doing. And they're like, where's the food? Come on, Jamie. Let's get this food started. So this morning, before we opened, we fed them their first diet because they get 3 meals a day. And so this morning, whenever they were eating, they got ground up meat. So just like meatballs that we would put in our spaghetti, except it's not cooked. So the meat is raw. So that's what they got for their first meal. And then their second meal is what you guys are going to see in a few minutes. And it is going to be lake smelt. And smelt is a freshwater fish that is farmed. So we can very easily get that smelt and feed it to our animals here. And then their third meal of the day will be this afternoon, sometime around 3 or 3:30. And they'll get a different type of fish. It'll either be mackerel or herring. So they get 3 different types of food every single day, just to make sure that their diet is varied. We don't want to feed them the same thing all the time. That would be boring, wouldn't it? Just like for us, that would be very boring if we ate the same thing all the time. They have very, very sharp teeth. So I'm going to see if I can show you their skull, because when they're eating, they need those sharp teeth to be able to eat the meat. So you guys can see this is an otter skull. You can see where the eyes would be, right where my fingers are. The nostril right up there in front. And then you can see how sharp their teeth are. They have those canines that are very, very sharp and perfect for ripping into meat. So we're going to feed them some fish in a little bit, and they will just absolutely love it. Now, when we're feeding them, we do it in a very specific way. We want to make sure that they don't fight over the food that they're eating. So I'll explain that to you when it's time for us to watch that. But something else I can tell you about them. North American river otters, I think I mentioned earlier, they can live anywhere in North America. So that means they can even live in cold water. And that's okay for them because they have that thick fur. Now their fur is very, very thick. It is not the thickest of all the mammals on Earth. It's actually the 4th thickest. The thickest of the mammals is the sea otter, but the river otters are 4th in thickness. And I can show you some of their fur right here. So if you look at that fur, it's very, very thick. And if I spread the fur out, you can't even see their skin very well because it's so thick. And on their body, they have, in 1 square inch, like think of a stamp, the size of a stamp, they have over 160,000 hairs in that tiny little area. That's a lot of hair. And think about this. In 1 square inch, they have more hair than we have on our entire body. In 1 square inch, they have more hair than we have on our entire body. And that's because, like I said, they can live all over North America in cold waters, in warm waters, and they have to have that thick fur in order to survive. It also kind of helps them stay waterproof. So whenever they get in the water doesn't even touch their skin because it's so thick. And it looks like when they swim in the water, it looks like they have little bubbles coming out of them, because that water kind of gets real slick on the outside, and then those air bubbles kind of get out. Oh, here we go. I'm going to show you guys. We have Annemarie, one of our interns here, that are going to be doing the feeding. And you can see as soon as they come out, they know it. Look at that, using their tails for balancing. Now this is going to be real fun for me to talk about because we do feed them. Oh yeah, I can show you guys the smelt. Check out that lake smelt. I told you they were going to be eating fish today. This is called lake smelt. So they already got that ground up beef today. And then they are going to have a different type of fish this afternoon for their third feeding. But let me explain what's going to happen here. With our otters, we need to make sure that they're not fighting over food. So we're going to do what we call cooperative feeding. So you can see we have 3 otters. How in the world are we going to do cooperative feeding? Well, how we're going to do it is we're going to make sure that they are in a very specific area of the aquarium exhibit before they get fed. So Ace is always going to get fed in the water. And then Charlie and Beau are always going to get fed on land. And if you notice, Charlie is going to be in one area and Beau is going to be in the other area. And this is the perfect time for me to tell you which is which, because Charlie is going to be fed on the left and Beau is going to be fed on the right. And if they are in their correct spots, then they will give them their food. If they are not in the correct spots, then they have to wait for their food until they get there. So they will have to make sure that they're showing that they understand where they're supposed to stand before they get their food. And then over here, Ace, he knows what's going on. He loves to eat when he's in the water, so we're just throwing it in there for him, and he's going over and getting it. I can get up this way so you guys can see that a little bit better. And that's a way of cooperative feeding. There's a couple of reasons why we do that. I already mentioned one of them. One of the reasons is to make sure that they're not fighting over the food. We wouldn't want that to happen. But another reason is because we have to make sure that Charlie gets his food and Beau gets his food and Ace gets his food, and that they're not just eating willy-nilly, but that we know exactly how much they're getting. So these trays of food are weighed out before we come out here based on their weight. Like I mentioned, they're going to be eating at least 15% of their body weight every single day. So our biologist is going to make sure that we weigh that food out, and then make sure that Charlie eats his, Beau eats his, and Ace eats his, which I think is really interesting. Now, Jennifer, did that spur any questions from our audience watching the feeding?
Well, we did have a question about, you mentioned that they eat meatballs in the morning or today, and then fish for lunch and fish for dinner. What do they eat in the wild?
Oh, that's a great one. Okay, so let's talk about that. They are carnivores, so they're going to be eating meat in the wild, and it really is going to depend on their habitat, which I think is pretty interesting. A river otter that lives, further up into a river away from a coastal area, they're going to be focused on eating fish and crayfish and things that live in that fresh water. Now, if you have an otter that's living a little bit more coastal, not of course out in the ocean, but a little bit more coastal, they might eat mussels and clams along with fish. So it really just depends on where they're living, what they eat. But they definitely are going to be eating fish in their diet. Sometimes they're also known to eat small mammals, small rabbits or small mice. They can also eat lizards or salamanders, frogs, turtles. It really just depends on what they can find. They're pretty opportunistic. That means they're going to eat what they can find, and they're really behaving well today, Annemarie. Annemarie is our biologist who's in charge of the otters, and I got to watch this yesterday, and now I get to watch it again today, and it's really fun to see how well they do with this cooperative feeding.
And
All right, anything else, Jennifer? Yeah.
How long does it take you to sort of train them to go to their spots when they're eating?
That's a great question, and I think that the answers on that one can be varied. I know that Beau is taking a little bit longer than Charlie to learn that behavior, but as you can see today, he's doing pretty well. Annemarie, you want to maybe show me on your fingers about how many months did it take for them to learn how to do this type of cooperative feeding? Probably about 2 months. Yeah, about that. She said about 2 months. And yesterday I was watching Beau, and he was so excited to have his dinner that he just couldn't stand still. He was just going all over the place. But then eventually he knew exactly what he needed to do, and he did what he needed to do, and he stood in his spot and he got his food. So a couple months, that's pretty good. That's pretty good learning. Oh, you can see Ace. Oh, I don't know if you can see Ace very well. Ace is over there, jumping into the water to get his food right in front of the visitors, which they love that. Anything else come in, Jennifer?
No other questions so far. I had a question about maybe what if you're out maybe on the river here in Columbia? We have a lot of river, a lot of people that go out in the canoes. What are the chances of seeing these guys out there in our local rivers? Yeah. No, that's great. They're pretty common in South Carolina. I mentioned that they live all over North America. In South Carolina, they're pretty common, so you could possibly see one. I have never seen one in the wild outside of here at the aquarium. We have a wild river otter that comes near the aquarium underneath the docks next door.
But when I've been out canoeing and stuff, I've never seen one, but it's definitely a possibility. They're probably going to stay away from you. They're probably not going to want to come too close. That might be a little scary for them. But they are considered common in our state. Now, all over the United States, they're considered more of a threatened species. So they're not endangered, but they are considered a threatened species in areas. Some of the things that they have to that they're in trouble for is habitat destruction, losing their habitat. Another one is poor water quality that is happening all over our country with the different things that we're adding to our waters. And then they are still hunting season for these animals. It's regulated, so you can't take as many as you want, but there is a hunting season for the river otters, and you can still sell their pelts in certain areas. But back in the day, that was a big concern because they were being taken pretty quickly for their fur. But yeah, you might see them. They're considered common in South Carolina.
Yeah, I have seen them. I think I might have mentioned to you in one of those ponds near a gas station, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was pumping gas one day and kept hearing splashing over in the little pond next to the gas station, and looked over there, and there was an otter.
Oh my goodness!
Splashing and playing around. I was hoping it was going to be okay there in that pond with.
Yeah, I would hope so too. Yeah, exactly. The trash and the pond water isn't always the healthiest quality water either, depending on the pond. So I hope that the otter's okay.
If you see one like that, is there a certain person, like an agency maybe, that you should call?
No, not at all.
Just
they can just let them go. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not a species that you have to call about. Now, if one is in trouble and needs help, like there's something wrong with the otter, then you of course could call the local law enforcement, and they would know who to get in touch with to know that. But if it's just behaving its normal life and just doing its normal thing, then no, you don't need to let anybody know, because they would be perfectly fine to just live their life.
They made it there on their own, so.
That's right, exactly, as long as they're not injured. Exactly. Aren't they sweet, though? They have really sweet faces, and they just finished feeding now. So usually when that happens, they jump right into the water. I'm going to go over here and see if the glare is a little less. I didn't want to be in the way of the feeding, but see if I can go over here and see it. Oh, yeah, that's a little bit better. When they're swimming on this side, you guys might be able to see it. All right, Jennifer, any last questions we have?
No, I see a tire or something down there. Do you guys provide them with some toys or some sort of enrichment to play with?
Yeah, that's exactly what we call it. We call it enrichment, and we do that for all of our animals, from the smallest fish that we have to the river otters. They all get enrichment. Because they are in human care, we want to make sure that we give them the best human care that we can. Now, these otters are not able to be released because two of them, Charlie and Beau, were born in human care, and we're not sure that they could survive on their own. And then, of course, like I mentioned, Ace was an orphaned otter, and we're not sure, and we definitely know he wouldn't be able to survive on his own. So they are going to stay living with us, but we want to give them the best possible care that we can. So the tire that you see, and you can see over here, there's a pipe with some little felt that's coming out of it. Oh, look, you can see what he's doing right now. I don't know which otter that is, but he's swimming through those little felt pieces and pushing that pipe around. That's all for them for playing, for entertainment, for fun. Sometimes we will hide food in there and they'll have to play with it until the food falls out. Sometimes we'll give them things like a big bucket of ice, and we'll put a couple of fish in it, and they have to dump the bucket over and find the fish within the ice. They like fish pops, where we can freeze some fish into water and make a fish popsicle, and we can throw that in there with them, and they can play with that until it melts and they get to that fish. So yes, that's called enrichment, and like I mentioned, we do that with all of our animals, from the smallest fish even up to our sea turtles and our otters. Great question.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know you did that with even the fish.
Yeah. So we can give them food in different kinds of ways. I'll give you an example. So we can some of these fish that are made out of really thick rope, and they're designed to look like little fish. But what we can do is stick food out of them. so it's got food sticking out of it, and we can lower it down into the tank. And then the little fish will come over and nibble all of that food right off of there. So that's one example of an enrichment we can do for our little fish.
That is really neat. I never knew that about the fish.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're just about out of time. So I wanted to mention a couple of things. First of all, I hope you guys enjoyed meeting Ace and Charlie and Beau, our river otters. And I hope if you come to the aquarium that you'll come out to the mountain forest and take a look at this beautiful exhibit and the otters that live here. And then I also wanted to mention that Jennifer has digitally a copy of a book list. And these are books that we put into a list that go along with the programs that we're doing this summer. So if you guys would like a list of those books, you can talk to Jennifer about that. And then lastly, we also created a bookmark coloring sheet where you can color different animal tail bookmarks and then use them as you're reading this summer. So I hope you guys will look into those things as well.
Yes, those will be linked as well when we post the videos. And so this recording, as well as the recording that we did 2 weeks ago, was it, Jamie?
Yeah, that's right.
That we did with the Great Ocean Tank, and we will be posting those videos on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, and we will have the links to those great resources also there. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us, and thank you, Jamie, for sharing all those tales about those adorable river otters. I was really looking forward to seeing those river otters today.
Good. I'm so glad you guys got to see them, and you got to see a feeding. That made it even better.
It did.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and happy summer.
That's right. Bye, guys.
Bye.